And we are rolling. What's up, guys? Welcome to Unlimited Freedom. This is Vaughn with Unlimited Freedom, guys. And on this video, I want to get into an update on the current bank collapse, right? The banking collapse that's happening in the United States of America, okay? Before we get into it, guys, I'm not a financial advisor. This is not financial advice, and I am not your financial advisor, okay? I'm just a guy who comes on here. I talk about what I'm doing, talk about my journey, my story, my interpretations, okay? So take that as you will, all right? And listen, the links to all of the platforms that I'm a part of are in the description. So if you're interested in joining any of the platforms, the links are in the description. Or if you just want to learn more about the platforms, the links are in the description, right? So you can go to the description, click the link, or you can copy paste the link and put it into your browser. And that's how you do that, folks. But I'm not telling anybody to do anything, okay? Just so that is clear. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe, especially if you get some value from this, guys. Helps me out a ton when you like the video because it means that I'm doing something that's adding some value to your life, and that's important to me. So here we go, guys. Let's get into this. Okay, so we've gotten, this is it's a couple days later. I did an initial announcement when this first happened. The Silicon Valley Bank collapsed. And at the time, we knew that people were insured for up to $250,000, but we also knew that people had assets with the bank that were worth way more than $250, and they had capital that needed to be freed up in order for them to pay their employees and to not have a whole crash in the tech economy. Okay, so what happened? Well, the government stepped in. Okay, the government stepped in once again, and basically the Fed has stated that they're pretty much going to honor everybody's money. Like, so the bank's already been seized, right? FDIC came in and seized the bank. Now the government's saying that we're gonna honor those assets. So the assets that you need to pay your employees, we're gonna pay them. Big Daddy government, we're gonna pay them, right? And any money you had in there, we got you. The government's got you. Don't worry about it. We got you. Okay, so well, what's the result of that gonna be? Okay, what's the result of that going to be? Well, I know that the reason why they're doing it is because they're trying to stave off a financial crisis, right? They're trying to say, hey, if we come in and kind of rescue the people at this bank, then maybe the other banks will be okay, and maybe people won't freak out. The problem with that is, guys, people freak out emotionally. They don't freak out rationally. So they're not using their rational logic part of the brain when they're freaking out about something like money or the banks, right? They're driven by an emotional lizard brain that they got back there from the 50,000 million BC, right? And then they're acting in emotion. People panic and people get scared. I've got some troubling numbers here. This is from today. Um, and I'm just gonna read these to you, and you can take it as you will, but it's not good news. Okay, so let's look at this. This is U.S. regional bank stocks now. Okay, these are banks that haven't failed. Western Alliance, the stock is down 75%. First Republic down 65%. Zions Bancorp down 43%. Pac West down 41%. Commercial down 33%. Fifth Third down 20%. So that right there, that says something. And what that says is that this government action has not stopped people from freaking out, right? And they're trying to get their money out of the bank and trying to pull their assets, and so it's happening, right? It's happening right now as I make this video. How bad is it going to be? We don't know yet. But I mean, it's definitely a red flag, right? It's a red flag. Okay? The government stepping in to save one bank is one thing, but how far are they going to go is the question. I mean, we have this economy here that's like part capitalist and it's part socialist, right? So it's capitalist in the sense that people are still pretty much free to own property and they're free to start businesses and they're free to pretty much do whatever they want within the confines of the law. But it's socialist in that this country would have collapsed a bunch of times if the government hadn't have stepped in with big money from the big money programs, big government money programs. I mean, Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the bank bailouts, right? The bailouts that happened back in 2008. Okay, this thing that they're doing now with Silicon Valley Bank, honoring the loans of these assets. So in a strictly capitalistic economy, none of that would happen. I mean, these things, they fail, and if you lose your money, you lose your money. That's just just is what it is there, right? If the banks fail, they fail. If you lose your money, then hey, but that's not the way that the United States is. Okay, the United States has a big socialist component to it, right? Now, I'm not saying socialism's good. I'm not saying socialism's bad. I'm not saying capitalism's good or bad. I think it's good, right? I believe in free trade. I think free trade is the best, right? If I want to trade you this pen for a little bit of coffee, then I should be able to do that, and nobody should bother me about it. We shouldn't have to draw up a big contract over it, right? And I definitely shouldn't go to jail for it, and neither should you. Okay? So that's what I believe. So how far are they going to step in is the question. I mean, how deep is the government going to step into this, right? Because these numbers, you just don't see these type of numbers. If it's not a crisis, you don't see these types of drops in numbers, guys. This is a bank run, okay? And what I want to do for you guys is I want to kind of go over what a bank run is with you. And I'm pulling this from Wikipedia. And bank run is another word for bank panic, guys. So a bank run or run on the bank occurs when many clients withdraw their money from a bank because they believe the bank may fail in the near future. In other words, it is when a fractional reserve banking system, where banks normally only keep a small proportion of their assets as cash, numerous customers then withdraw cash from deposit accounts with a financial institution at the same time because they believe that the financial institution is or might become insolvent. Okay, guys? That's what's happening. When they transfer funds to another institution, it may be characterized as a capital flight. Okay, as a bank run progresses, it may become a self-fulfilling prophecy. As more people withdraw cash, the likelihood of default increases, triggering further withdrawals, guys. This can destabilize the bank to the point where it runs out of cash and thus faces sudden bankruptcy. To combat a bank run, a bank may acquire more cash from other banks or from the central bank. Okay, or limit the amount of cash customers may withdraw either by imposing a hard limit or by scheduling quick deliveries of cash, encouraging high return term deposits to reduce on-demand withdrawals or suspending withdrawals altogether. Wow. Man, that's crazy. A banking panic or bank panic is a financial crisis. It's just another word for financial crisis, guys. A banking panic or bank bank run. So let me start that again. A banking panic or bank panic is a financial crisis that occurs when many banks suffer runs at the same time, as people suddenly try to convert their threatened deposits into cash or try to get out of their domestic banking system altogether and like maybe go to a global bank, right? Or an offshore bank, or maybe, withdraw it all and get into the crypto space, right? And I'm going to talk about that in a second, is how that affects our space, guys. A systemic banking crisis is one where all or almost all the banking capital in a country is wiped out. The resulting chain of bankruptcies can cause a long economic recession, as domestic businesses and consumers are starved of capital as the domestic banking system shuts down. According to former U.S. Federal Reserve Chairman Ben Bernanke, The Great Depression was caused by the failure of the Federal Reserve System to prevent deflation, and much of the economic damage was caused directly by bank runs. The cost of cleaning up a systemic banking crisis can be huge, with fiscal costs averaging 13% of GDP, and economic output losses averaging 20% of GDP for important crises from 1970 to 2007, guys. Several techniques have been used to try to prevent bank runs or mitigate their effects. They have included higher reserve requirement, requiring the banks, right, to keep more of their reserves as cash. Government bailouts of banks, what we just talked about. Supervision and regulation of commercial banks, which do we really need? I mean, do we really need more regulation? I mean, is it working? That's the question. Is it working? The organization of central banks that act as a lender of last resort, the protection of deposit insurance systems such as the U.S. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, or FDIC, after a run had started, a temporary suspension of withdrawals. These techniques do not always work. For example, even with deposit insurance, depositors may still be motivated by beliefs they may lack immediate access to deposits during a bank reorganization, that's completely understandable for somebody to believe that, right? Like, what's going to happen to my money? How long is it going to take for me to get my money? Do I want to get my money out so that I know that I have it? And it's just this primal emotional urge that people have when they become scared of losing their money. Why do they become scared? Because we trust the banks. We trust the banks. And that's the problem. We trust them so much that it's so unbelievable to us when a bank fails that suddenly it starts messing up our ego-invested personality that we had created. The ego-invested idea that the bank was going to be stable and all good forever is now shattered. And we panic because we don't know what to do. I got to get my money, right? I don't want to lose my money. I got to get my money, right? And that's where this thing is going, right? Well, we don't know how far this is going to go. We don't know, if it's going to stabilize itself or if it's going to continue to cause problems. So what we do know, the government's going to be involved. They're already involved. Okay. Just in case you don't know about the far extreme of socialism and government control. The far extreme is that people no longer own any property. That's the far extreme. And they call it that they say, and here's the line. They say that the people own the means of production. What that means is that the government owns the production and the government owns the property. So since you vote for the government people, they're saying that the people own it. But really what that means is you're voting for the people, but those people, the government, actually owns it. And they disperse it as they see fit. So you lose your house, you lose your business. Nothing is yours anymore. Everything belongs to the government, right? And some countries have gone that route. It hasn't worked great, right? People don't like that. They feel oppressed, and they feel like I can't, the government controls everything, and I can't do anything for myself. I can't do anything. I'm not free. They feel like they're not free, right? And how does it happen? Well, it happens a little bit at a time, guys. Just it's incrementally, right? But the fact that it has to happen shows that there's problems in both systems, right? There's obviously problems on the far extreme of socialism. There's also problems on the far extreme of capitalism, like banks collapsing and people losing all their money and having nowhere to go, right? That would be a far extreme result of capitalism if the government didn't come in and bail them out. So it's like, which two evils do you want here? You're trying to find the lesser of two evils in that type of a situation. But this is interesting stuff, guys. And the way that it impacts our space is this. It's only going to help the crypto space, right? Because people are going to look to the crypto space as an alternative or a way to diversify their portfolio so that it's not all in the bank, right? They might want to get into a crypto program, right? They might want to get into a VORTIC United. They might want to get into, whatever, buying and holding coins, right? Whatever it is you want to do. Maybe they want to learn how to trade, right? So it's good for us, right? As crypto people, as people who rock and roll with different crypto platforms. Some of us on here know about trading. It's all to the good for us because it's going to help the larger, economy. And let's face it, there's a lot of money in the United States of America, and people who realize. And every now and then, you got to have people realize that, hey, the banks aren't everything, right? The bank can fail. Okay, like sometimes you got to hit the brake. Sometimes you got to hit the emergency and say, okay, what am I doing putting all of my money in the same place? Maybe that's not that smart, right? Because the bank can fail. And so what happens is, and these things happen from time to time. I've lived through some of these. The first one I lived through was in the 80s, where the economy got hit hard into recession, and then the policies of Ronald Reagan brought the economy out of recession, but it also cut a lot of people off from government benefits who were depending on those government benefits, right? So that's why some people think Reagan's like horrible, and then some people think he's the best ever. I don't have I already made my vote, right? I don't I don't weigh in. Okay, let's just leave it at that. But what I will say is that I lived through that one, and then I also lived through the bubble, the bubble burst, the .com bubble burst in the late 90s. I lived through the housing market crisis and the Great Recession in 2008. And now I'm going through this one as well, right? I'm going to be living through this one as well, and so are you. And there's a good point to be made here, and there's a good there's a good piece of information that I think I can share with you. Some people are going to look at this as a crisis. Other people are going to look at it as an opportunity, right? Let me show you what I mean. Right now, U.S. Bank Western Alliance is down 75%. You know what I call that? A clearance rack sale. It's a sale. It's on sale. 75% off. Right? If somebody was inclined to go grab up a bunch of Western Alliance stock right now, you could get it at a very, very good price. Right? And what's the idea there? Well, the idea is that that you're believing that this we're going to come through this just like we did the other ones. The government's going to rally together. They're going to come up with a plan. The people are going to rally together. There's going to be a big push. There's going to be a lot of money injected into this. We'll probably borrow another $50 trillion from China or whatever have you. And I say we. I should say the United States of America, right? I don't want to lump myself in with them or anybody else for that matter. But it's a sale, guys. I mean, it's either a crisis. For some people, it's a crisis. For other people, it's an opportunity. For example, during the housing market crisis, right? When the housing prices crashed, dude, so many millionaires were born during that time because they saw that, hey, these prices are like super low now. The banks are basically giving away these houses. Let me buy as many of these things as I can, like the game Monopoly. They bought house and house and house and house and property and property and property and property because it was all on sale because the housing market crisis was here. The economy crashed. The prices went way down. These people, these opportunistic people went up and bought up a bunch of properties, and then whoosh, everything went back up, and now they're chilling, right? They're in Hawaii on the beach, right? They're doing surfing trips, right? They're good. They're good to go, right? They got, hey, cheers to you. So, guys, change is opportunity. Crises are opportunity. It's all in how you look at it. Make sure that you guys stay tuned. I'm going to be dropping more info on this as it becomes available. Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you guys on the next one, man. Take care.